The massive space station called Nexus hung in the dark like a crystal city. Its walls were made of clear blue material that glowed softly. Inside the main hall, 12 different alien species sat around a huge round table. This was the Galactic Council, and today they would make a decision about humans. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho walked into the room. He was a tall man with dark hair and wore a simple blue uniform. Behind him came Dr. Park Sora, a woman with kind eyes who carried a data pad. They were the only humans in the room full of aliens. The council speaker was a creature called Veltaris. He looked like a giant lizard that walked on two legs. His skin was green and covered in small scales. When he spoke, his voice was deep and made the floor shake a little. "The council will now hear the human request," Veltaris said. His yellow eyes looked down at Kim Tae-ho like he was looking at a small child. Kim Tae-ho stepped forward. He had practiced this speech many times. "Honored council members, humanity has served the galaxy for 50 years. We have helped build your cities. We have grown food for your people. We have solved problems between different species. Now we ask for equal treatment. We want to share in the advanced technology that other council members have. We want a real voice in decisions that affect all of us." Around the table, the aliens looked at each other. Some made sounds that might have been laughing. Others just stared at the humans with bored expressions. Counselor Zefton spoke next. He was made of pure energy that took the shape of a tall, thin person. When he talked, his voice sounded like music played too fast. "Humans are still very young," he said. "Your species only learned to travel between stars 100 years ago. We have been doing this for thousands of years. Wisdom comes with age, and humans are not ready for real responsibility." Dr. Park Sora felt her hands get tight. She had spent years working with these aliens. She had helped them solve problems they could not fix themselves. But they still saw humans as children who needed to be told what to do. Another council member spoke up. This one looked like she was made of living crystal. Her name was Hext Ara, and she represented something called the crystalline hegemony. "Humans are too emotional," she said. Her voice sounded like glass breaking slowly. "They make decisions based on feelings instead of logic. This makes them dangerous with powerful technology." Kim Tae-ho tried again. "With respect, counselor, our emotions help us understand problems in new ways. When the Saurian colonies had the plague 5 years ago, it was human doctors who found the cure. When the trade wars almost started between the luminals and the synthetics, it was human diplomats who made peace. We do not just follow orders. We find solutions." A new voice joined the conversation. This one came from Nexdual, who looked like a robot, but was actually a living machine. "Human neural patterns are too random," Nexdual said. "Our computers cannot predict what humans will do. This makes them unsuitable for important work." Dr. Park Sora wanted to speak, but Kim Tae-ho gave her a small look that meant, "Stay quiet." She watched as one by one, each council member gave reasons why humans should not be treated as equals. The biological collective representative, who looked like a walking plant, said humans were too short-lived to understand long-term planning. The mechanical confederacy delegate, who was covered in metal armor, said humans broke too many rules. The energy shepherds, who were made of controlled lightning, said humans used too much physical matter. For 2 hours, Kim Tae-ho answered their concerns. He talked about human achievements. He showed them records of problems that humans had solved. He explained how human creativity had made many alien technologies work better. But the council members were not listening. They had already made up their minds. Finally, Veltaris called for a vote. All those in favor of granting humans advanced technology access and equal council representation. No hands went up. No lights flashed. No sounds were made. The vote was 12-0 against humanity. All those opposed? Every council member showed their agreement. Some raised appendages that might have been hands. Others made lights flash. A few made musical sounds. But the message was clear. Veltaris turned back to the humans. "The council has decided. Humans may continue their current roles serving the galaxy. Perhaps in 500 years, we will look at this question again." Kim Tae-ho felt something cold settle in his stomach. 500 years. Most of the humans alive today would be dead by then. Their children would be dead. Their children's children would be dead. Thank you for your consideration, Kim Tae-ho said. His voice stayed calm even though inside he felt angry and disappointed. We understand your decision. Dr. Park Sora looked surprised. She had expected Kim Tae-ho to argue more to demand another chance, but he just bowed politely to the council and turned to leave. As they walked out of the Great Hall, Dr. Park Sora whispered, "That's it? We're just giving up?" Kim Tae-ho did not answer until they were back in their small ship. Once the doors were closed and they were alone, he sat down at the communication console. His fingers moved quickly over the controls, sending a message back to Earth. Dr. Park Sora read the message over his shoulder. It was very short. Request denied. Protocol 7 authorized. What is Protocol 7? She asked. Kim Tae-ho looked at her with sad eyes. Something we hoped we would never have to use. On Earth, President Lee Soo-jin received the message in her office. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her eyes were sharp and intelligent. She read the message 3 times, then walked to her window. Outside, she could see the lights of the city, and beyond that, the launch platforms where human ships came and went. She had hoped the council would be reasonable. For 50 years, humans had worked hard to prove themselves. They had been good citizens of the galaxy. They had followed the rules. They had helped others. And still, the aliens saw them as nothing more than useful servants. President Lee Soo-jin picked up her secure communication device. She typed a message that would go to every human colony, every human ship, every human research station in the galaxy. The message was simple. Silent departure. Implement immediately. Within minutes, the message reached human communities across hundreds of worlds. In secret facilities that the aliens knew nothing about, humans began to prepare. They had spent decades getting ready for this moment, hoping it would never come. The aliens had made their choice. They wanted humans to remain servants forever. But humans had their own choice to make, and they had been preparing for it much longer than the council realized. Kim Tae-ho and Dr. Park Sora knew nothing about the secret preparations. They only knew that humanity had been rejected once again. As their ship flew away from Nexus Station, they did not know that this would be the last time humans would ask the council for anything. The galaxy was about to change, and the council had no idea what was coming. 3 months had passed since the council rejected humanity's request. At first, nothing seemed different. Humans still worked on alien worlds. They still fixed machines and grew food and helped solve problems. But then, slowly, they started to disappear. Engineer Cho Min-soo worked on a mining planet called Zerion Prime. Every day he checked the big machines that cleaned the air so everyone could breathe. The machines were old and broke down often. Cho Min-soo had learned how to fix them better than anyone else. The alien supervisors liked him because he worked hard and never complained. On a Tuesday morning, Cho Min-soo finished his work as usual. He wrote his report and put it on the supervisor's desk. Then he walked to his small room, packed his few belongings, and left. He did not say goodbye to anyone. He just disappeared. The next day, the alien supervisors looked for him. They checked his room and found it empty. They called his communication device, but it was turned off. They looked at the schedule and saw that he was supposed to work that day, but he never came. "Where is the human?" asked Supervisor Klexnor, a creature that looked like a giant bug. "The air machines need their daily check." His assistant, a smaller bug-like alien, made a clicking sound. "Maybe he got sick. Humans get sick sometimes." They waited 3 days, but Cho Min-soo never returned. Finally, they decided to assign someone else to check the air machines. But the new worker did not know how to fix them as well as Cho Min-soo had. Within a week, 2 machines broke down completely. On the space station called Kepler Station, Dr. Yoon Hae-won worked in a research lab. She studied how to make alien computers work better with living tissue. Her research had helped the robot-like synthetics improve their technology by many years. The synthetic scientists respected her work, even if they did not understand how she thought of her ideas. Dr. Yoon Hae-won spent her last day finishing a very important project. She uploaded all her research files to the main computer. She organized her notes so that other scientists could understand them. She even left instructions for future experiments. Then she quietly left the station on a cargo ship. the synthetic. Scientists did not notice she was gone for 2 days. When they finally checked her lab, they found everything clean and organized. Her research was complete, but she was nowhere to be found. "This is unusual," said Chief Scientist Nex Vera, whose metal face could not show emotion. "Humans usually say goodbye before leaving." "Perhaps she had a family emergency," suggested another synthetic. "Humans are very emotional about their families." All. Across the galaxy, the same thing was happening. Human doctors finished treating their patients and then vanished. Human engineers completed their repair jobs and disappeared. Human farmers harvested their crops and left without explaining why. On the diplomatic station Harmony Base, Commander Wang Ji-hoon led a team that explored new star systems. They had just found 3 planets that could support life. These planets would be very valuable to the Council. Wang Ji-hoon wrote a detailed report about the planets, including maps and resource surveys. Then he and his entire human crew left the station during the night shift. Captain Rhett Solar, a luminal made of controlled energy, found the empty human quarters the next morning. All of their personal belongings were gone. The only thing left was Wang Ji-hoon's final report, sitting on the command desk. "Where did they go?" Captain Rhett Solar asked his crew. "They had 3 more months on their contract." No one had any answers. The humans had simply vanished. What the aliens did not know was that a secret operation was happening across the galaxy. In hidden places far from Council space, Admiral Kang Yu-na watched as hundreds of human ships moved through the darkness. These ships were not like the ones the Council had seen. They were bigger, faster, and built with technology that combined alien knowledge with human innovation. Admiral Kang Yu-na was a woman with short gray hair and calm eyes. She stood on the bridge of a ship called the New Horizon. Around her, screens showed the locations of human communities throughout Council space. Green dots showed humans who had already been picked up. Red dots showed humans who were still waiting for rescue. "Status report," she said to Captain Lim Dong-hyun, who was in charge of the rescue operations. 60% of our people are now safely in our territory," Captain Lim said. "The remaining teams are on schedule. We should have everyone out within 2 weeks." Admiral Kang Yu-na nodded. For 50 years, while the Council saw humans as simple workers, humanity had been preparing for this day. They had built secret colonies in unexplored parts of the galaxy. They had developed new technologies that the Council had never seen. They had created a hidden civilization that was larger and more advanced than anything the aliens imagined. The operation was called Silent Departure. Every human in Council space had been given instructions years ago. When the code was sent, they would finish their current work, pack their belongings, and go to secret pickup points. Human ships would collect them and take them to safety. Dr. Park Sora was one of the coordinators of the operation. She worked from a hidden base called Haven Station. The station was built inside a large asteroid, invisible to Council sensors. From here, she helped plan the routes that would bring humans home safely. "The medical teams are reporting some problems," she told Admiral Kang Yu-na during a video call. "Some humans do not want to leave their alien friends behind." This was true. Over 50 years, some humans had made real friendships with aliens. Dr. Kim Nari, who worked in a Saurian hospital, had tried to explain to her alien colleagues why she had to leave, but she could not tell them the truth without revealing the secret operation. "I understand this is hard," Admiral Kang Yu-na said, "but we cannot risk exposure. If the Council discovers what we are doing before everyone is safe, they might try to stop us." Dr. Park Sora understood, but it still felt wrong to leave without saying goodbye to aliens who had been kind to them. Still, the operation continued. Engineer Park Jin-woo was picked up from an industrial world where he had been improving factory systems. Technician Seo Min-ji left a research station where she had been working on energy production. Teacher Lee Hyojin finished her classes on a Council education world and then quietly departed with her students' final grades completed. Each human left behind finished work and detailed notes. They did not want the aliens to suffer because of their departure. Even though the Council had rejected them, many humans still cared about the alien species they had worked with. But they were also excited about going home to the secret human territories. Many had never seen the hidden colonies that humanity had built. They had only heard stories about worlds where humans could live freely, where they could develop their own ideas without being treated as servants. As the weeks passed, the pickup operations continued smoothly. Human ships moved through council space like ghosts, invisible to alien sensors. They collected their people from hundreds of worlds and carried them to safety. The aliens began to notice that humans were disappearing, but they did not understand the scale of what was happening. They thought individual humans were leaving for personal reasons. They did not realize that an entire species was quietly evacuating council space. By the end of 3 months, nearly every human in council territory was gone. They left behind clean workplaces, completed projects, and detailed instructions for their replacements. But they took with them 50 years of experience, knowledge, and skills that the aliens had never properly valued. The galaxy was about to learn what it meant to lose 11 million humans all at once, and the Council had no idea that their biggest crisis was just beginning. The first sign of trouble came from the hospitals. Dr. Rexa Velmoth was the chief medical officer at the Grand Hospital on the Saurian homeworld of Veltros. She was a respected doctor who had worked with many species for over 200 years. But now she faced a problem she had never seen before. The surgical success rate has dropped to 40%, she told her staff during their morning meeting. 3 months ago, it was 95%. I do not understand what is happening. The other doctors looked confused. They were using the same equipment and the same procedures they had always used. Nothing had changed in the hospital except, for one thing, all the human doctors had left. Dr. Rexa Velmoth had not thought much about the human doctors at first. Humans were assistants, she believed. They helped with simple tasks, but did not do the important work. When Dr. Han Seung-woo left without explanation, she assigned his duties to other staff members. When Dr. Kim Nari disappeared, she assumed another doctor could easily take over her patients. But now, looking at the terrible success rates, Dr. Rexa Velmoth began to remember things differently. When they had a crystalline patient whose energy patterns were unstable, it was Dr. Han Seung-woo who suggested a new treatment that saved the patient's life. When the synthetic patients started having system failures, it was Dr. Kim Nari who developed a way to help their living parts work with their machine parts. Perhaps we should review the procedures the humans were using, suggested Dr. Yelkorth, a younger Saurian doctor. Dr. Rexa Velmoth agreed. They spent days studying the medical records. What they found shocked them. The human doctors had not just been helping with simple tasks. They had been developing new treatments, new surgical techniques, and new ways to help patients from different species. The humans had a special ability to understand how different types of biology work together. When a luminol made of energy got sick, most doctors could only treat them with energy-based medicine. But human doctors found ways to use physical medicines that somehow helped energy beings heal faster. We need to contact the humans and ask them to return, Dr. Rexa Velmoth said, but when they tried to call the human doctors, all their communication devices were turned off. It was like the humans had vanished completely. Similar problems were happening across the galaxy. On the mining world of Zerion Prime, Supervisor Klexnor stared at production reports that made no sense. The mines were producing 30%, less material than they had 3 months ago. The air cleaning machines kept breaking down. The rock cutting equipment was working poorly. What has changed? He asked his assistant. We have the same workers, the same machines, the same procedures. The only difference is that engineer Cho Min-soo left, his assistant replied. But he was just a maintenance worker. Supervisor Klexnor decided to investigate. He looked at the maintenance records from before Cho Min-soo left. What he discovered made him very uncomfortable. Cho Min-soo had not just been fixing machines when they broke. He had been improving them to work better. The air cleaning machines were supposed to clean the air every 6 hours, but Cho Min-soo had modified them to clean the air every 3 hours, which meant the air was much cleaner and workers could work longer without getting tired. The rock-cutting equipment was supposed to cut at a certain speed, but Cho Min-soo had found ways to make it cut faster while using less energy. All of these improvements had been small and gradual. The alien supervisors had not noticed them happening. They just saw that production was good and workers were healthy. They thought this was normal. Now, without Cho Min-soo's constant improvements and maintenance, the machines were going back to their original performance levels. But everyone had gotten used to the better performance. The reduced production was a shock. On Kepler Station, the synthetic research teams were having their own crisis. Chief Scientist Nexavera was trying to continue the research that Dr. Yun-Hai Wan had been working on. The research was about making computer brains work better with living tissue. This research was very important because it could help synthetics become more advanced. Dr. Yun-Hai Wan had left detailed notes and complete data files. Everything seemed to be there. But when the synthetic scientists tried to continue her work, they could not make progress. Her methods do not follow logical patterns, Nexavera reported to the station commander. She makes intuitive leaps that our minds cannot replicate. We can understand what she did, but we cannot understand how she knew to do it. This was happening everywhere. Human engineers had not just followed instructions. They had been creative, problem solvers who found new ways to make things work better. Human farmers had not just grown crops. They had developed new growing techniques that produced more food with less water and fertilizer. Human diplomats had not just carried messages between species. They had been preventing conflicts that other species did not even know were about to happen. The Council began receiving reports from across their territory. The luminal energy networks were having failures because human engineers had been compensating for design problems that the luminals had never recognized. The crystalline manufacturing plants were producing defective products because human quality controllers had been catching mistakes that alien workers missed. Counselor Thexran of the Mechanical Confederacy was the first to understand the full scope of the problem. He was a logical thinker who liked to analyze data. When he saw reports coming in from hundreds of worlds, he began to see a pattern. "Council members," he announced during an emergency meeting, "we have made a serious error. The humans were not just workers, they were the foundation that our civilization was built on." Veltaris, the council speaker, refused to believe this at first. "Impossible! We have been spacefaring for thousands of years before humans left their planet. How could we depend on such a young species?" But Chief Analyst Quental had been studying the data. She was a careful scientist who did not make claims without evidence. "The evidence is clear," she said. "Agricultural production is down 30% across all council worlds. Diplomatic incidents have increased by 400%. Industrial efficiency has dropped by an average of 40%. And most concerning of all, we have not discovered a single new habitable world in the past 3 months." This last fact was the most shocking. The Council's expansion had always depended on finding new worlds to colonize. Exploration teams found an average of 12 new habitable worlds every month, but since the humans left, that number had dropped to 0. "How is that possible?" asked Counselor Zeftan. "We have the same exploration ships and the same survey equipment." Quental displayed her research on the main screen. Analysis of past exploration records shows that human team members were responsible for finding 97% of new habitable worlds. They had an intuitive ability to recognize patterns in stellar data that indicated the presence of life-supporting planets. The truth was becoming clear to everyone in the room. Humans had not been junior partners or useful assistants. They had been the hidden force that kept galactic civilization running smoothly. Their creativity, intuition, and problem-solving abilities had been essential to almost every important system in Council space. "Where did they go?" asked Counselor Hextara. "Can we contact them and ask them to return?" But this question revealed another shocking discovery. When Council investigators tried to track where the humans had gone, they found nothing. It was as if 11 million humans had simply vanished from the galaxy. Admiral Kessathor led the search effort. He was an experienced military commander who had tracked enemies across the galaxy. But the humans had left no trail to follow. Every human facility outside Council space had been abandoned and cleaned. There were signs that large construction projects had been completed recently, but no clues about where the humans had gone next. "They planned this," Admiral Kessathor reported to the Council. "This was not a sudden decision. They have been preparing to disappear for years, maybe decades." As the weeks passed, the crisis got worse. Food shortages began on some worlds because human agricultural techniques had been feeding 40% more population than traditional methods could support. Infrastructure failures increased because human engineers had been preventing breakdowns that other species could not predict. Most dangerous of all, old conflicts between Council species began to resurface. For 50 years, human diplomats had been quietly preventing wars by solving small problems before they became big ones. Without human mediators, misunderstandings between species were turning into serious disputes. The proud Galactic Council, which had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, was falling apart, and it was all because they had failed to recognize the value of the species they had dismissed as too young and inexperienced to be trusted with real responsibility. The humans had been holding galactic civilization together, and now they were gone. 6 months after the humans left, the Galactic Council faced the worst crisis in their recorded history. Emergency Coordinator Velnaris, who was Veltaris's younger sibling, stood before a packed council chamber. The normal calm and dignity of the council was gone. Representatives from hundreds of worlds had come to demand answers. "The situation is catastrophic," Velnaris announced, his voice heavy with worry. "Food shortages are developing on 47 worlds. Critical infrastructure is failing across all sectors, and we now have confirmed reports of armed conflicts between 3 council member species." The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Representatives shouted at each other in dozens of different languages. Some blamed the council leadership for not understanding how important humans were. Others blamed individual species for becoming too dependent on human help. Councillor Drarenth of the Biological Collective stood up. She was a plant-like being who usually spoke in calm, measured tones, but today her voice was filled with frustration. "We must face the truth. Our species have been stagnating for thousands of years. We have been recycling the same technologies, the same solutions, the same ideas. The humans, in just 50 years, were making us better without us realizing it." This admission shocked many in the chamber. The council species prided themselves on their ancient wisdom and advanced civilizations. The idea that young humans had been improving their technology was hard to accept. Intelligence Director Orthman presented an even more disturbing report. "We have discovered what we are calling the Silent Wars," he said. "Analysis of diplomatic records shows that human mediators were secretly preventing or resolving an average of 12 potential interspecies conflicts per month. In the 6 months since their departure, these conflicts have escalated into actual violence. The 3 wars that had already broken out were getting worse each day. The crystalline hegemony was fighting with the mechanical confederacy over mining rights to a system that both claimed. The energy shepherds had attacked synthetic colonies, saying that artificial beings had no right to exist. The biological collective was threatening to release engineered plagues against species they considered unnatural. These conflicts have ancient roots, Orthman explained. Our species have fundamental disagreements about how the galaxy should be organized. Human diplomats had been managing these tensions so skillfully that we forgot they existed. Dr. Rexa Velmoth from the Saurian medical community presented her own disturbing findings. Medical systems across the galaxy are in collapse. Disease, outbreaks that humans could have prevented, are spreading unchecked. Treatments that humans developed are failing because we do not fully understand how they work. The agricultural reports were equally terrible. Coordinator Flexmar of the Food Distribution Network explained that crop failures were causing starvation on multiple worlds. Human farmers had developed techniques that allowed us to feed populations 40% larger than our traditional methods could support. Without these techniques, we simply do not have enough food. But perhaps the most shocking revelation came from Industrial Manager Korth Vel. "We have attempted to reverse engineer human improvements to our manufacturing systems. We have discovered that human technology was not just different from ours. It was often based on approaches that our minds cannot understand." He showed examples on the main display. Human engineers would look at a problem and immediately see solutions that our logical analysis would never discover. They combined intuition with science, emotion with logic, creativity with mathematics. Our computers cannot replicate this type of thinking. This was the heart of the crisis. The council species had evolved to be logical, systematic, and careful. These qualities had served them well for thousands of years. But they had also made them predictable and limited in their thinking. Humans thought differently. They could see patterns that logical minds missed. They could make connections between ideas that seemed unrelated. They could solve problems by trying approaches that seemed impossible to work but somehow did. Veltaris, looking older and more tired than anyone had ever seen him, finally spoke. "We must find them and convince them to return, whatever it takes." This led to the largest search operation in galactic history. Admiral Kessathor commanded a fleet of 10,000 ships. They searched every system that humans had ever visited. They followed every possible route that human ships might have taken. They offered huge rewards to anyone who could provide information about human locations. But the search revealed just how thoroughly the humans had planned their departure. Every trace of human activities outside Council space had been carefully erased. The search teams found abandoned facilities that showed signs of massive construction projects, but no clues about where the humans had gone. "They took everything," reported Captain Yextal, one of the search team leaders. "Every piece of equipment, every computer file, every personal belonging. But more than that, they took all the rare minerals and materials needed for faster-than-light travel and quantum communication systems." This discovery was terrifying. It meant that humans had not just left Council space. They had made sure that finding them would be nearly impossible. Navigator Captain Zorthcole made another disturbing observation. "The abandoned sites show evidence of advanced technology that we have never seen before. Some of these facilities were larger than our biggest space stations. How did they build all this without us knowing?" The answer was becoming clear to Council analysts. While serving in Council space, humans had been secretly building a parallel civilization in unexplored regions of the galaxy. They had used Council transportation networks and resources to establish hidden colonies, research stations, and industrial facilities. "They were not just learning from us," admitted Chief Technology Analyst Pearlton. "They were taking our knowledge and improving it in ways we never imagined. Their hidden civilization may be more advanced than ours." As the search continued with no success, the crisis in Council space grew worse. The 3 ongoing wars were spreading to involve more species. Economic systems were collapsing as trade networks that humans had managed fell apart. Scientific research had slowed dramatically because human insights were no longer available. Some Council members began to panic. Councillor Hextera of the Crystalline Hegemony proposed using military force to capture any humans they could find. "We need their knowledge to survive. If they will not return willingly, we must make them return." But Admiral Kessathor pointed out the obvious problem with this plan. "We cannot capture humans if we cannot find them. And even if we could find them, their hidden civilization may be powerful enough to defend itself." Other Council members suggested trying to replicate human thinking using artificial intelligence. But the synthetics, who were experts in computer intelligence, explained that this was impossible. "Human creativity cannot be programmed," said Chief Synthetic Nexavera. "We have analyzed thousands of examples of human problem-solving. There is no logical pattern that we can follow. Their minds work in ways that our computers cannot simulate." As months passed with no solution in sight, some species began to consider leaving the Council altogether. If galactic civilization was going to collapse anyway, they reasoned, it might be better to focus on protecting their own worlds. "The Council has existed for 12,000 years, Veltaris said during one emergency session. "We have survived wars, plagues, economic disasters, and natural catastrophes. But we may not survive the loss of humanity." The irony was not lost on anyone. The species that the Council had dismissed as too young and inexperienced to be trusted had become essential to galactic civilization. The beings they had treated as servants had been the masters of innovation and problem-solving. And now, with the humans gone, the ancient and mighty Galactic Council was facing extinction. They had 11 million human citizens, and they had let them all slip away into the darkness of space. The only question now was whether the humans would ever give them a chance to correct their mistake. And as each day passed without contact, that seemed less and less likely. The galaxy that had rejected humanity was learning what life was like without them. And it was a lesson that might destroy everything the Council had built over thousands of years. 1 year after the Exodus, the galaxy was dying. 3 major wars raged across Council space. Food shortages had turned into famines on dozens of worlds. Ancient species that had survived for millions of years were facing extinction. The proud Galactic Council met in emergency session every day, but they had no solutions to offer. Then, on a quiet Tuesday morning, every communication screen in Council space suddenly came to life. The message appeared simultaneously on Nexus Station, on military command centers, on civilian news networks, and on personal communication devices. It came through secured Council networks, through public channels, and through systems that were supposed to be impossible to access. The humans had somehow taken control of the entire galactic communication grid. President Lee Soo-jin appeared on the screens. She was older now, with more gray in her hair, but her eyes were still sharp and intelligent. She wore a simple blue uniform with no decorations or symbols of rank. Behind her, the viewers could see what looked like an advanced command center with walls made of some unknown material that seemed to glow softly. "Members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice calm and clear. "I am President Lee Soo-jin of the United Human Territories. I bring you greetings from the 11 million humans who once lived and worked in your space." Across the galaxy, aliens stopped what they were doing to watch. In the council chamber on Nexus Station, Veltaris leaned forward in his chair, hardly believing what he was seeing. The humans had not only survived their exile, they had clearly prospered. "We want you to understand that we did not leave out of anger or revenge," President Lee continued. "We left because you made it clear that partnership was impossible. For 50 years, we contributed everything we had to galactic civilization. We shared our innovations freely. We solved problems that others could not solve. We asked only for recognition as equals. When that was denied, we chose a different path." The camera pulled back to show more of the facility behind her. Admiral Kang Yuna stood beside the president, wearing a uniform that combined human and alien design elements in a way that looked both familiar and completely new. Beyond them, through large windows, viewers could see what was clearly a massive space station or planetary facility that dwarfed anything in council space. Dr. Park, Sora appeared on screen next, now bearing the title of Chief Science Coordinator. "We have established our own territories beyond your space," she said. "We have built our own cities, developed our own technologies, and created our own civilization. We have not just survived outside the council. We have thrived." The screens showed brief images of human cities that looked like nothing the aliens had ever seen. Buildings that seemed to grow like living things, but were clearly made of advanced materials. Ships that moved through space using principles that council scientists did not recognize. Gardens where plants from dozens of different worlds grew together in impossible harmony. "We learned from you," Dr. Park continued. "But we also innovated beyond what you taught us. Our approach to science and technology combines logical analysis with intuitive creativity, systematic research with experimental thinking. This has allowed us to solve problems that pure logic alone could not address." Engineer Cho Min-soo appeared next, but he was no longer the simple maintenance worker the aliens remembered. Now he wore the uniform of a director of engineering, and behind him were manufacturing facilities that made council industrial centers look primitive. "We did not just take your knowledge and run away with it," he said. "We studied your technologies, understood your principles, and then found ways to make them better. But we also developed completely new approaches that no one had tried before." The message showed examples of human innovations, medical techniques that could heal injuries across species barriers that had previously been impossible to cross, agricultural methods that could grow food in environments where nothing should have been able to live, manufacturing processes that produced materials stronger and lighter than anything in council space. But the most shocking revelation came from Ambassador Kim Tae-ho, who had led the original delegation to the council. "We want you to know that we are not angry with you," he said. "We understand why you could not see our value. Your species evolved to optimize existing systems, to perfect what already works. This has made you stable and long-lasting civilizations." Paused, and his expression became more serious. "But humans evolved differently. We evolved to adapt, to create, to find new solutions to new problems. When your civilizations reached maturity, you naturally became conservative and careful. When our civilization reached the same point, we became explorers and innovators." The camera returned to President Lee Soo-jin. "This difference is not a flaw in either of our approaches. It is simply who we are. But it also means that we cannot go back to being your servants or junior partners. We have proven that we do not need you to survive and prosper." The screens now showed the true scope of human achievement. Star maps revealed that humans had claimed and developed territories larger than all of council space, Population figures showed that human colonies were growing rapidly with new generations born free from alien oversight. Technology demonstrations revealed capabilities that seemed almost magical compared to Council science. However, President Lee continued, we have not forgotten our time in Council space. Many of us made friendships with aliens who treated us with respect and kindness. We remember the good times as well as the frustrations. And we are aware that our departure has caused problems that innocent people are suffering from. This was the moment the Council had been hoping for. Dr. Rexa Velmoth, watching from her hospital on Veltros, leaned forward with desperate hope. Supervisor Klexnor, struggling to keep his mining operations running, held his breath. Thousands of alien administrators, doctors, engineers, and ordinary citizens across the galaxy waited to hear if the humans would help them. We are willing to establish trade relationships with Council space, President Lee announced. We will share some of our medical technologies to help with the disease outbreaks. We will provide food assistance to worlds facing famine. We will even offer diplomatic mediation to help end the current wars. The relief in the Council chamber was visible. Veltaris looked like he might collapse from the emotional strain being lifted from his shoulders. But then President Lee continued, and her next words changed everything. However, these relationships will be between equals. We will not return to Council space as workers or subjects. We will not accept subordinate status. If you want human help, you must be willing to treat humanity as a fully independent civilization, with its own rights and territories. The terms were simple but revolutionary. Humans would help solve the crisis they had left behind, but only if the Council recognized them as equals. There would be trade, cooperation, and assistance, but no return to the old system where humans served alien masters. Ambassador Kim Tae-ho delivered the final terms. We will establish a neutral meeting station at coordinates that we will transmit separately. Council representatives may come there to negotiate agreements, but understand that we are no longer asking for your permission or approval. We are offering you the opportunity to benefit from voluntary cooperation. President Lee Soo-jin appeared one last time on the screens. You have 1 month to decide, she said. Send representatives to the meeting station if you want to begin discussions, or continue trying to solve your problems without us. The choice is yours. The transmission ended with a display of coordinates for the neutral meeting station, followed by complete silence. In the Council chamber, the representatives sat in stunned quiet. For over a year, they had been searching desperately for the humans, hoping to convince them to return and save galactic civilization. Now the humans had found them instead, and the terms of engagement had completely changed. Veltaris slowly stood up. The humans have made their position clear, he said. They will help us, but only as equals. They will not return to being our servants. The question now was whether the proud Council species could swallow their pride and accept humans as true partners. For thousands of years, they had been the dominant powers in the galaxy. The idea of treating a young species as an equal was difficult to accept. But the alternative was clear. Without human help, galactic civilization would continue to collapse. The wars would spread. The famines would worsen. Ancient species would die out. The Galactic Council itself might not survive another year. Councillor Drenth spoke first. We created this crisis by refusing to recognize human value. Perhaps we can solve it by finally giving them the respect they deserved all along. One by one, the other council members agreed. They had learned the hard way that humans were not the junior partners they had believed them to be. The species they had dismissed as too young and inexperienced had outmaneuvered, outplanned, and ultimately surpassed their ancient civilizations. The humans had left silently, and in doing so, they had proven that they were never the servants the Council thought they were. They had been the foundation holding galactic civilization together, and now they held all the power for its future. Age of human subservience was over forever.